Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. Happy October. It's October 2nd, 2024, second show of the month. I'm proud to say we did a good one yesterday on school safety and all the things necessary for that, difference between school security, school safety, all the things that can happen. You may want to listen to the show. And today I've got a great one for you. Our resident school psychologist and consultant is here, Dr. Howie Knoff. Okay, the president of Project Project Achieve, okay, which does all kinds of consulting to schools. He'll talk about that. But today we're going to talk about the wall between special education and general education. I want everybody to check out everything we do, everything we have, everything we archive at ace-ed.org. And a big hello and good morning to Dr. Knopf. Good morning, Howie. My throat's not clear. What can I tell you?
Well, good morning, Larry. A little bit too early for you?
I don't know. I've been up for quite a while, but all of a sudden, one of those deals. What can I tell you? Okay, I haven't talked to that many people. It's early in the day yet. I haven't talked to anybody. I've been up. So you're like the first person I've been talking to. Yeah,
Okay.
Unbelievable. First of all, how you doing in Florida? Which I assume you're there today.
Well, we're struggling. I mean, I live in Southwest Florida, so the hurricane kind of blew by us, but we got the backwash. And, I mean, communities just all up and down the state, especially on the West Coast, impacted. And certainly we're thinking about the people in South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts north. Yep.
Yeah, and you guys, you were in Fort Myers, I think, and didn't you got a pretty good wash up onto the beach, right? And onto the main street or something near the beach? Am I right?
Yep, we got it again, Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, but got a little bit worse as you got up to Sarasota and Tampa, and then further north, even worse. So it's just, we'll have to dig out and start again.
There you go. And at least I have to say this, as bad as it is, and hurricanes suck. Okay, and no matter how they touch you, they suck. Okay, but at least you dodged the major bullet. Okay, you got a little flesh wound there, but boy, I feel bad for the people of Asheville. And I was thinking, this hasn't been mentioned at all. Besides looking for people, they want to survive, they need food, they need water, and all that. Over the course of the next month or so, the schools, they got to get kids to school. They have no infrastructure to teach kids. They can't get on the buses. Half the roads are washed out or broken.
Right.
Okay, it's going to.
And even if they go virtually, some of the infrastructure relative to the internet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. They can't. It's really a mess. It's going to be a real problem, and I feel so bad for them down there. Such a beautiful part of the world. Okay, down in North Carolina. So I wish them well. I wish them well.
Yep.
Okay, let's get on to today's topic here, because you're always interested in this, and I like this. There's a wall between general education and special education. I was thinking about that as I saw this with you. So many of the kids are mainstreamed into regular classes, which is great. But the teachers, are they trained for it, et cetera? I want you to talk about this wall, okay, that exists between general and special ed. You can get into that any way you want, but we got to teach these kids. These kids aren't lost. They need help. We got them. How do we teach them? Howie, I'm going to just start with there. What's this wall?
All right. Well, the wall has always existed, at least in my professional life, but I'm constantly reminded about it. I was up in a school district, did a 3-day consult in a district up in the Michigan area the beginning of last week. And, one of the things I do is I'm trying to do the needs assessment and then do the consultation in the schools and the districts that help break down these walls. But, in my interviews over 3 days, including interviews with students from fourth grade all the way up through high school, there's just not that interdependency, which exists, but there's not the interdependency of staff, of curriculum, instruction, of interventions that needs to be. And this special ed wall has been there, again, since I began in the field 40 years ago. And kind of to capture it, what happens sometimes is, and again, no disrespect here, but just to capture it, we have kids who have disabilities, but most of our kids with disabilities are typical kids. They just have
exactly.
special needs with, that we have to do something a little bit different in the instruction or relative to the behavior. But the kids are in the general education classrooms because they're more like general ed kids than just, quote, kids with disabilities. And sometimes the general ed teachers who are not getting the support that they need, they get frustrated and they call up the special ed teacher and they say, here, he or she is yours. Now, conversely, the wall, sometimes what happens is the special education teachers don't want to give it up as easily to the general ed teachers who can do it, but they want to hold on to these kids, and it's not like they're going to lose their jobs. And so
no, they want to do the best for the kids. They want to do the best for the kids. They don't want to lose the kids.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah, but sometimes they feel like they're the only ones to do best with the kids. And,
exactly.
So you've got the wall, and the wall is already.
Well, let me ask you, I'm going to stop you right there. Are they wrong? I got to ask you that about the special ed teachers. It's kind of a good segue to what I was thinking about how to go with this. They're asking the general ed teacher to teach a kid with an IEP, and it might just be we say kid with disabilities, but it's a disability of some sort, maybe a learning disability, whatever. Okay, and these are just normal kids. Okay, but they do have a challenge that needs to be handled. Are the general ed teachers, are the special ed teachers wrong? Are the general ed teachers able to cope with this? I mean, a long time ago, there was nothing mentioned about this, but I was taught how to teach history, not how to teach kids with a challenge history. Okay? It's a difference. All right? Where a special ed teacher can do that. So are the special ed teachers wrong? Or is there a challenge out there?
Let's go to the numbers, and then I'm going to frame this in 5 areas to break down the wall. All right, so here are the numbers. All right. In this country right now, all right, there are 13 different disability areas. All right, and I'm just going to focus right now on the top 7. All right, it's by the percentages. 38% of the kids with disabilities in this country have learning disabilities. The thing is that the teachers need to know what is the specific learning disability and where is it impacting the student's learning. Because some kids have learning disabilities only in reading, but only in, let's just say, phonemic awareness and decoding, and not in vocabulary and comprehension.
Exactly.
Right. 38% of the kids learning disabled. 16% of the kids with disabilities, speech and language. 16% of the kids are other health impaired. A lot of times that's kids with attention deficit disorders or health impairments, but not always, or not usually, health impairments that keep them out of the general education classroom. And then 11% of our kids have something on the spectrum of autism. All right, 7% are intellectually disabled, 5% emotionally disturbed, 3% developmentally delayed, and then so on. All right, just take the top 4. Learning disabilities, speech and language, other health impaired, autism. That's 70% of the kids with disabilities. And many, if not all of those kids, certainly speech and language and learning disability, they should be in the general education classroom. And we know from the research, we've known it for 40 years, that especially the learning disabled kids learn more like general education kids and just need some special nuances. All right, so the first anchor and the first brick to take out of the wall is that, first of all, when we say, the child has a disability, we have to specify which disability. We have to specify how does it impact their learning, and more important, how do we facilitate their learning. And the general ed teachers are the ones that are up to bat, supported by the cast of special education teachers who are not doing the consulting that they need to do because they're so caught up in the IEPs. Your related service folks relative to school psychologists, reading and math intervention specialists, and so on and so forth. So the point, first of all, is that most of these kids need to be taught and should be taught and are general education kids more than kids with disabilities.
Right. So where do we go, Howie? What'd you tell the folks in Michigan? How do you handle it?
All right.
What do you do?
Well, we're working toward doing something on a systemic basis. All right, but there are 5 areas where there are bricks in the wall. There are organizational barriers that sometimes start in the district office. There are supervision and accountability bricks in the wall that really are down at the school level and more with your administration, our building principals. There are professional development and consultation and relationship bricks that need to be addressed.
Well, wait, I got to bring it back. What about the principals? Yeah. Are there just take that a little further? Are they blocking the way, not understanding what they need to do? I don't understand where you were going with that.
All right. Well, sometimes the principles are a function of the organizational barriers. So let me give you one organizational barrier example.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So up at the district office, it's always interesting to see where the pieces of general education and special education are fitting. Because sometimes what happens is you've got an associate or an assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction who oversees general ed, and then you may have a pupil services department that oversees special ed, and never the twain shall meet. And so sometimes at the district level, you've got organizational barriers. You don't have the collaboration. You don't have the coordination. You've got confusion. And sometimes
and you've got a principal serving 2 masters, is the way you're describing it.
Or they're getting mixed messages.
Exactly.
And then sometimes at the district level, the special ed folks are not on the superintendent's cabinet. So they don't have a voice to be able to integrate the system. But again, that translates down to the supervision and the accountability at the building level. I know principals, they've got a tough job. All right, but we have to understand you've got 2 laws that are in play here. You've got the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, okay, which is your general education and your Title I, and you've got IDEA, the Individual for Disabilities Education Act. Our building principals are not always well versed in the legal responsibilities relative to IDEA and how to play those out. They sometimes are coming from a general education world, so they have got, they've got training in special ed, but they really don't, they're not immersed in the culture and the understanding.
That's right.
And that plays out in how they coordinate and integrate their staff. Sometimes in terms of the supervision, sometimes in the accountability. Sometimes, quite honestly, some of our building principals, when we've got a general education teacher who is abdicating their responsibilities and saying, look, the kid's a kid with disabilities. He's not my kid. The principal has got to sit there and say, excuse me, accountability here, excuse me, that is your student. That is your student. You have that student in the classroom for 80% of his or her time in this school. That's your student. It's more it's an integration of the whole child, okay? But let's not carve these kids up, but that's what's happening. These kids are being carved up into pieces rather than us looking functionally at these kids as whole children. So
it's really scary, and I'm not picking on this Michigan district wherever you were. Michigan's a big place. We don't know who it was. But my point is, okay, when you go in and you talk to them about that, what's the attitude back? Okay? Because I know you talked to them about that. You found out all these things from, you said you interviewed the kids, the principals, the teachers, etc. You go in with an idea afterwards and say, look, this is your responsibility, not your fault, but your responsibility. What's the reaction? How do they handle that?
Well, the first part of it is let's remember, the district invited me in, and this happens, but it doesn't happen enough. Sometimes we're so entrenched in the wall. We've had this wall up for generations that the only way to start breaking down the wall is, unfortunately or fortunately, to bring in an outside person.
Well,
so
absolutely.
They're recognizing there's no disrespect in saying, look, the system here in our district is not working. We need an outside voice. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we should be applauding the district because the district brought me in.
I am applauding the district. I am.
Yes, but I'm also going back. Okay, I'm doing 3 in-service days with the. Okay, it's not like a one and done. I didn't go in there and then sprinkle my magic in. All right, so answering your question,
my point is you got to go back there. You're the outsider. You got to go back there. They did invite you in without question, but a lot of the people you're talking to don't know you, and I know you're good at setting up with people and having them understand and going about it the right way. But after 40 years in this business, you know what half of what's wrong already before you go in. Then the individual stuff kinks in. Okay, right. But you got to make everybody understand it. Okay, and it's if I may, and I know you don't do this, but it's like an affront to them. Oh, I'm not doing this right. Who's this guy? Okay, and because all these things are established in our educational bureaucracy, how do you handle that?
Right.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Yeah, and it's no one's fault. And you're good at this. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is how I handle it. First of all, I was very specific about the meetings and who I wanted to meet with over the 3 days. So I started out on Monday, and I met with the administration, the upper administration. I had a separate meeting. Some of the upper administration was there with the building principals and the leadership teams. All right, so I'm meeting with many different constituencies. I'm going into schools. I'm doing walkthroughs. I'm sitting in the back of classrooms, not for a lot of time, okay? Like I said earlier, I'm meeting with kids and so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm meeting with teachers. I'm meeting with the related service, all right? So the first part of the issue is how do I do this is you've got to build relationships, okay? So I'm not going to do a one and done because that's ridiculous, because then people are not happy with the, quote, action plan, and they say, well, he doesn't know our system. So I never do a one and done. But these first 3 days last week, I was on a listening tour. I was not there to cast judgment. I was not there to sit there and tell people you're doing it wrong. I was there to listen about what's working in your system as it relates to the integration and the education of kids with disabilities and kids with general education challenges and kids who are just succeeding in general ed. So I want to hear what's working in terms of this collaboration. What's not working? What are the gaps? What do you need? Whether that's training or resources or technology or whatever it is. So I'm listening to all of the current status. But as I'm doing that, I'm building relationships with people. I'm certainly throwing my 2 cents in. There's no question about it. And I talk about, here are some of the, approaches and orientations that we need to have. And if a teacher, were to go off one direction, I might bring them back and say, these kids have a right to an education also. And maybe what's missing is the element of success and comfort and the support that you need, and not the fact that this is a kid who you can't handle. So I'm kind of embedding some of the messages in there in a very subtle and tactful way, but I'm listening to people. I'm collecting data. Okay, they're going to do a survey this week for me, and we're going to look at school discipline, school safety, and how that relates, because I'm also in there to evaluate their SEL and PBIS program.
Oh, good.
Okay,
good.
I'm asking the teams at each school to identify, again, what are the resources they have, what are the gaps, what are the things that they're proud of, their success stories. So you're building the relationship, but you're getting a true sense of what does the system need. Yeah. And sometimes what the system needs is just to accentuate some of the successes and build off of those successes. And sometimes what it needs is the system has adopted things that are just not working, and we got to throw them away.
Yeah, you do. And it's hard to do, especially in a bureaucracy. I'm curious, and again, in this district, the mystery district, okay, I'm curious who called you in. And I know it was central. I think you said it was central administration, but who in central administration? Was it the superintendent? Did he or she see a challenge, a problem out there, or was it the special ed folks? Who called you in?
Well, in this case, it was actually...
Yeah,
in this case, it was actually the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction It was the general education person because, again, they were looking at the SELPBIS, but they were also looking at the multi-tiered system. But, over my career, sometimes it starts with a school psychologist calling me in, and then, and I do this all the time. I'll give anyone who calls me, if they're really interested and they're committed to change, I'll give them a free 60 to 90-minute virtual consult. But I'm not going to do it just with the school psychologist. I want to do it with the building team or the district team. So sometimes it starts in any number of different places. Sometimes it's parents. Sometimes it's a school board member. But, it varies from place to place. But the point is somebody's got to make the first call. So,
that's right.
Now, sometimes, to be honest with you, I've worked in some urban districts, we're not going to name them, where basically it was a court order. I mean, there was disproportionality or whatever, and either the State Department of Education or even, I've had it where a court literally has ordered that the kids need to receive relief through looking at the systems, looking at a needs assessment, and bringing in a national consultant. So it comes from all sorts of different directions. So
yeah, it's so interesting, but and this to me is important. People have to understand the repercussions of the work that you do, Howie, because if a teacher, if a general ed teacher, okay, is getting frustrated working with special ed kids, no matter what their particular challenge might be, okay, that busts teacher morale. There's talk in the faculty room. Okay, there's not enough teachers out there. I mean, what you're doing. We how do I want to say this? First of all, we have the kids. Okay, and we really want the kids to learn. Okay, and that's really why the associate superintendent called you in. Okay, because he wants his kids to learn. Believe me, or she wants her kids to learn, whatever.
Right.
Okay, but it has repercussions beyond that. Okay, and then just talk about that, because I think people have to understand that this goes way further than just what the topic is. There is this wall, but the wall creates problems and challenges that can be overcome. It makes life easier in the end when you're doing your work. Just talk about that.
So
and as you know, we got to wind down a little bit sooner than usual today.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last three areas, and again, let's go, with the metaphor of the wall. Sometimes the best way to basically topple the wall is to hit the wall with where its lowest bricks are. Okay, so the three lowest bricks: professional development and consultation. All right, that's critical. All right, sometimes what happens with professional development is they bring in professional development, and it's totally focused on, if you will, Tier 1 or on general education kids, like reading as an example. Every district, it seems, in this country is rethinking how it's teaching reading. Well, in the in-services and in the follow-up into the classroom, the reading workshops should not just talk about general education kids, but how do you modify for kids with disabilities? With learning disabilities, with dyslexia, and so on. We don't get that integrated in-service very often. It's all focused on general ed. We're not doing the consultation with our general education teachers. So when kids with disabilities are in their classrooms, but they're more like general education kids, but the special ed teachers are involved, the special ed teachers need to feel comfortable and have the time to be able to go in and consult with the general ed teacher. And we're doing a lot of co-teaching, but still a lot of co-teaching is co-teaching where there's a divide. There's a general ed teacher in the classroom, a special ed teacher.
It makes
special
for a
ed
divide.
teachers, the special ed teacher is not co-teaching. They're teaching the kids with disabilities. It's parallel teaching. It's not co-teaching. All right. The fourth
it's so
area,
interesting. And the other thing, Howard, I got to say this. You just said it. If we get this right, buy more time for special ed teachers, and we have a real shortage of special ed teachers.
Yep.
Okay. And the more, I have to say this, the more we can take off their plate to help individual kids, like doing this the right way and working with the general ed teachers, the better off we are. Okay, it's a cycle here, and we've
Right.
got to make sure that we cover it completely. Howie, you do good work with all this stuff. I got to tell you. Okay, and I know you're going to go, but when you going back to Michigan? When's your next trip with them?
2 weeks.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And they're doing their survey homework.
Yeah. Let me hit the fourth and the fifth, and then we'll do a summary. The fourth we've already kind of talked about. The fourth area is instructional knowledge and collaboration, the teaming part of it. So if we're having trouble educating, if a child with a disability is not learning, we got to get the team together. But the team is general ed, special ed, and related services. And then the fifth area, to your last point, we've got to help people to be successful. We've got to be persistent, but help them to be successful. So relative to the special ed shortage, yes, we do have a shortage of special ed teachers in this country. There's no question about it. But let's also remember, we've got special education teachers who are certified who went in and now they're teaching general education because of all the hassle sometimes of being a special ed teacher. So we've got some special ed people who have basically crossed the line. And if they had been successful, if we had focused on their success and the success of their consultation with their general education colleagues, maybe they might not have, quote, left special ed. So that whole area of success, when we're successful, general education teachers are successful, we don't have this pushback. We don't have as much of this pushback. We need to support everyone. We've got to support the whole child, but we've got to support the whole building at the same time.
Howie, it's and everything you're doing. I'll say this again. It's you peel away the layers of the onion, so to speak. Yeah. I mean, everything we do goes further and deeper than what seems like the obvious thing to do. It's just so important. And in this day and age, as things are changing so much out there, we really need to do the right thing. I hope everybody checks it out. I have Project Achieve, linked here, etc. Howie is great. Bring him into your school district. He's always here with us, giving us some great advice. Dr. Knoff, thank you so much. And you take care of yourself down there in Florida.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Howie Knoff, everybody. Okay, and I have to cut it short. I got to get a dead stop today for the show. Usually I don't do that, but today I've got to be somewhere else. Okay, and there's nothing I can do about that. So we're going to have to end the show a bit early. Howie's great. Always great to have on him. Here's Howie Knoff, Project Achieve. Knoff is with a K, K-N-O-F-F. Go check it out. Okay, we'll archive at ace-ed.org. Thank you, Howie. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.